Thank you very much, my daughter. Can I kindly request for the stand, please? Good morning, class. How are you? Thank you. It should be. Is that strong? Can you hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed your lunch. And I want to thank God for this far that He has brought us. I thank God for the sermon for the divine service this morning. And I thank God for the sermon that I had before I left yesterday. And very soon we will be winding out of here. But when I first spoke here, I mentioned that I have always had this feeling that our approach to stewardship needs to be tweaked so that we are not copying KRA, but so that we are empowering. In my person, I would like to challenge our students that next time that there is a camp meeting, we should also have an exhibition. Because I believe that seated in front of me are men and women who are gifted in many ways that can help us to make Kenya a better place, that can help our congregations to be better stewards who do not borrow to give, but are able to make enough money to come back with generous offerings and tithes that will support the work of God. So I'm hoping that even if you don't invite me to come next year, when I hear that there will be a camp meeting here, I would like to come and sneak and see what you are displaying, what God has given you that we can use to empower our communities economically. I know there are people who are doing business studies. There are people in IT, the people who are in agriculture, people in health, and you are learning things that you are keeping in yourselves that ought to be known, ought to be put into practice back in our villages. I'm praying that you will take this seriously, that we cannot come here. The only display that we have is this one. Tuko na soya na books. No one is telling us how we can improve our agriculture. No one is telling us what kind of crops should be grown in certain parts of our communities so that we can empower our parents at home, our grandparents at home, so that they can be better stewards. That they do not have to ask for money from town for them to be able to return a tithe. Because borrowed tithe is not a true tithe. Good morning, class. What did I say? So I'm praying that you will take it up seriously. My pastor, that there will be an exhibition area telling us the new things that you're doing. how you can generate power out of air. I understand you can generate it out of air. How you can make windmills at home that will power will power irrigation at home. How we can live more healthily by preparing the food stuff that you people are running away from, running to Java and these other places, which we still have to eat at home. How can we prepare them in a better way? I'm praying that you will take that challenge, that you will not come here next year just to sit and just listen and not display what the Lord has done in your life. Something that is empowering this church to be a better church, to get men and women who are true stewards and stewardesses of that which God has given them. So that, for me, is a challenge. And whether they invite me or not, God willing, if I'm here, I will sneak in to see what our people are doing. So today I want to talk about a very challenging matter. How can we be faithful in Babylon? And what's the reward of stewardship in a compromised world? Faithful in Babylon, the reward of stewardship in a compromised world. And I want to say that I'm glad that we are here again. And I'm seeing before me, ladies and gentlemen, who are full with energy, who have great potential, and you have a divine purpose in you. You're young, passionate, gifted, but let's be honest, the pressure is real. The pressure to fit in, the pressure to compromise, the pressure to succeed, often at the cost of integrity. So let me ask you, have you ever felt like doing the right thing doesn't pay off in the real world? Have you ever felt like doing the right thing doesn't pay off in the real world? Like being honest in a corrupt system makes you fall behind? Like choosing purity makes you feel alone? Like turning your assignments without cheating puts you at a disadvantage? Let me tell you that you're not alone. Let me introduce you to Joseph, a young man just like many of you here. He was betrayed by his brothers, enslaved in a foreign land, falsely accused of sexual assault, and forgotten in prison. Yet, in all this, he remained faithful. And that faithfulness, it changed not only his life, but the fate of an entire nation. This afternoon, I want to speak to you on the theme of faithful in Babylon, the reward of stewardship in a compromised world. Because your campus may feel like Egypt or Babylon, but if you remain faithful, God will reward you just as he did for Joseph. Joseph didn't grow up in Egypt. He didn't choose it. It wasn't a Christian environment. Egypt was a land of idols of ungodly customs, of moral decay. And Joseph was only 17 years old, as we read in Genesis 37:2, likely younger than some of you who are here. He had no church, no parents, no accountability groups, just Joseph and God. Yet, as you read in Genesis 39, verse 2 to 5, the Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. Potiphar was pleased with him. I'm saying this because I believe that you've read the story of Joseph. I believe that you're acquainted with this story that I'm going to talk to you about. And the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. And I'd say that you don't need to be perfect, to be in a perfect environment, to be faithful. You can thrive spiritually, academically, and professionally, even in secular, hostile, or moral compromised spaces, if you walk with God. Dr. Ben Carson once said that God has given us more than enough brain power. We just need to be willing to use it and to trust Him in the process. Stewardship is about managing what doesn't belong to you. Your time, your talents, your body, your money, and your influence. And when you look at Joseph, he didn't own Potiphar's house, but he ran it with excellence. Reminds me of Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as though you are working for the Lord and not for people. And let me ask you again. Are you managing your academic responsibilities like Joseph did in Potiphar's house? Are you managing your influence on TikTok, on Instagram, on Snapchat? How are you managing it? How are you managing your influence? Are you managing your purity, your friendship, and your gifts? Oswald Sanders said this: true leadership is found in giving yourself in service to others, not in coaxing or inducing others to serve you. So let us talk about Joseph again. What was his biggest test? What is his biggest test? Joseph's main challenge was that he was a handsome man. Good morning, class. He was handsome. He had influence. And Potiphar's wife came after him day after day. She didn't just flirt with him. She actually grabbed him. What did Joseph do? He didn't negotiate. He didn't flirt back. He ran and left his coat behind. And what did he say as he ran away? How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against my God? And what are some of the temptations that we face today as young people? Not only young people, but even us grown-ups. Cheating in exams. Are we not tempted? Are we not tempted? Are we not in college because we stole exams? What's the test that is there? Sexual compromise. Sometimes encouraged by people you trust. It's okay. You're not the first one. Even so and so. Conforming to ungodly trends just to fit in. So that you can be counted. So that you can take part in that conversation that takes place in the balcony. And so we walk with hidden sins, in pornography, in addiction, in bitterness, and laziness. Joseph's answer reveals the power of religious principle. He would not betray the confidence of his master on earth or his master in heaven. Sometimes the faithfulness is not standing strong. It is just fleeing away. Because left on our own, we cannot do it. So sometimes the best thing is to flee from that company. And Joseph did the right thing. But it ended with him going to prison. He was faithful, and for his faithfulness he was punished. Yet again the Bible says, the Lord was with him and blessed him. The Lord made him succeed in everything he did. And today you may feel like you are in a prison, forgotten, unnoticed, unrecognized. Maybe you are doing right and still being left out. Hasn't it been said that some of our ladies don't make it to the national teams for football and rugby because their leaders want them to compromise? And in many other ways, our young ladies are put to tests as they sit for their exams, as they go for their interviews, as they grow up in their business, in their career, they feel challenged. But I want to say that even men are challenged today. Understand there are places where men find sugar mummies. John Maxwell puts it this way: the secret of your success is found in your daily routine. What is your daily routine? How are you living your life? How are you facing the challenges that come your way? So one day, Joseph was caught up in prison. You know, God is faithful. One of my favorite verses that I fall back on when I'm challenged is 1 Corinthians 10:13. That says, no temptation has come your way except that which is common to man. But God is faithful and will not allow you to be tested beyond your power to remain firm. And at the time you're put to the test, He'll give you the strength to endure and provide you with a way out. God always has a way out for those who are faithful. So one day, Joseph was called from prison because Pharaoh had a dream no one could interpret. So Joseph interpreted it, not to impress, but to serve. He interpreted it, not to impress, but to serve. And in Genesis 41, verse 39 to 40, it says, God has shown you all this, so it is obvious. No, this is now after you told the story. And you can read that whole story there. You hear how the king responds to what Joseph has done, how he has interpreted the dream. Can you imagine that God does not always reveal the things to the holy people, to the people that we think are the most faithful. Sometimes he reveals these things to non-believers. Joseph, king in Egypt, was a non-believer. But God has sent him a dream that none of his wise men can interpret. And it's while he's threatening to finish the whole team of wise men that is there, that one of those people who are serving him and who had served Joseph in prison, and Joseph had predicted interpreted his dream, remembers Joseph many years later. And now he comes and interprets that dream for the king. And at the end of it, this is what the king tells Joseph. This is a man who is in prison. A man who has served years in prison, not because he was guilty, but because he was victimized, because he could not compromise. He could not compromise. And so now, after interpreting, this is what he tells the king. God has shown you all this. No, this is how the king responds to him. After his, God has shown you all this. The king is now respecting Joseph's God. And he says, God has shown you this, so it's obvious that you have greater wisdom and insight than anyone else. I will put you in charge of my country. Where was he serving before? Good morning, class. Where was he serving before? And these people from Tokanganane school, where was he serving before? Where was he serving? In Potiphar's house. Was Potiphar the king? Potiphar was someone who was serving in state house. Okay. But had great power. Such power that he could put Joseph in prison without taking him to court. And out of that prison, God is now bringing him to be in charge of what? If he's going to be in charge of the country, who else is he going to be in charge of? Who is going to report to him? My pastor, your people, I told you yesterday not to be giving these people food. Because every time they eat food, and the food was very nice today, they fall asleep. But let's continue. This is the test of being faithful in a foreign land. Being faithful in a foreign land. Don't let food divide you. Be like those children of Israel in Babylon. But let's continue. So Joseph has interpreted not to impress, but to serve. And as a result, is being told, I will put you in charge of my country. At what age was Joseph being told this? 30 years. 30 years. You can read that in Genesis 41, verse 46. That's about your age. Tested since he was 17 to the time that is now 30 years. And where is the Lord taking him? To be in charge of a whole country because of his faithfulness. Because he's a good steward. So, what if in your 20s, in these universities, what if in your 20s, and I'm sure that some of you, most of you, are still in your 20s, what if this university was Potiphar's house or your prison? what if. How you manage it may determine Pharaoh's palace that God has for you. Just the way you are going to manage your life here. That the way that you're going to manage the assignments that you're being given here may make the whole difference. Tim Kimmel wrote this. True greatness is never a result of a chance. It is the reward of character. What is your character today? What is your character? And God is looking for those who are not chasing power, but those who are stewarding faithfully, serving well, with integrity, with dignity. And if I may ask, where is your Egypt today? There's your Egypt. Could it be your classroom? Will you be faithful even when others are cheating? Could it be in your sports? Will you maintain your integrity? What about your social circle? Will you uphold your purity? Let me quote from Ben Carson again. God has a purpose for everyone. Don't let others define yours. Some of you will not walk up here to be prayed for because you think that others are looking at you. Those others should not define your life. When you choose to surrender to God, when my pastor calls you to come up here without hesitation. Don't let others define yours. And Joseph's life teaches us that if God can trust you in Potiphar's house and in prison, he will promote you to the palace. And how many of you are dying to go to the State House? Every time there's an opportunity to go to the State House, the bus is full. No, you're not going there to receive handouts. You are going to go there to serve God, to minister to people, to make a difference as a man who trusts in God, who believes in God, who's a good steward. And so when Joseph is enticed by Potiphar's wife, what does he say? I have as much authority in this house as he has. Imagine that Potiphar gave all the authority to Joseph. And he has not kept me back from anything except you. How then could I do such an immoral thing and sin against God? The sin is not against the one that you are convincing to break the rule. The sin is against God who said, do not. He said, do not. And he has said do not in many, many ways. And those do not lead you to damnation. They lead you to eternity in heaven, they lead you to prosperity. And not the prosperity that some churches want to preach to us, but prosperity that is given by God. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 6, verse 19, don't you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, who lives in you, and who was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourselves, but to God. In whatever form, we belong to God. Whether you are leading in an office, whether we are leading at home, whether we are getting tempted to steal in whatever form, I remember that you are the temple of God. And so just like Joseph was a witness in Egypt, the early Christians were witnesses in Asia, witnesses in hostile pagan territories. Paul still reminds us of our assignment. Number one, that we are the house in which the Holy Spirit lives, and that we should not defile that house. Ellen G. White says this: those who in everything make God first and last and best are the happiest people in the world. Good morning, class. What did I say? Those who in everything make God first and last and best are the happiest people in the world. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be faithful. So here's my challenge to you. Are you faithful? Are you ready to be faithful in your Egypt? Ask your neighbor. True, we are winding up. Are you ready to steward your studies, your friendships, your purity, your platform, and your calling? Are you? If so, I want you to stand up and we will pray. And I would like to ask my pastor, is my pastor here? Where's my pastor? Pastor, please come. I hope that what I've shared with you will make a difference in your life. I hope that you are willing to serve God in all the circumstances. And I hope that we all desire to be better stewards in life. Tomorrow will be my last day with you. And then I'll travel. But I'm praying that God will make a difference in your life because you attended this camp meeting. And that you will choose to serve God. and serve Him with all your heart. And that as a result, if God gives me life longer, you know, some of us are on the 7th floor where we are saying we're living in bonus time. But let me meet you 10 years on and tell me, and you tell me that I chose to be a good steward on that day when we met at the campus. May that be our experience. May the Lord bless you as you stand up on your feet. May you be faithful men and women who are willing to serve God with all your heart. Thank you.